Okay, let's dive into something that's really changing the game in AI. We're talking about a huge shift away from just giving AI commands and toward actually teaching it how to think its way through really complex problems. It's this idea of moving from simple prompts to building entire reasoning processes.
So you've probably been there, right? You're trying to get an AI to do something tricky, and you're crafting what you think is the perfect prompt, but it just doesn't work. No matter how you rephrase it, the AI can't seem to make that final leap. It really feels like you're hitting a brick wall.
And here's the thing, it's not just a feeling. It's a real, documented problem. Even the really smart techniques, like chain of thought, where you ask the AI to show its work, still hit this wall. They're great when the problem looks a lot like the examples you gave it, but they totally fall apart when you give them a harder version of the same thing. Researchers have a name for this, the easy-to-hard generalization problem.
So this big limitation sparked a really cool idea. I mean, if we humans are struggling to write the perfect prompt, why not use an AI's own strengths to help us out? What if you could get one AI to help you write a better prompt for another AI?
And that's the whole idea behind what's called meta-prompting. It's like having an AI co-pilot for your prompting. Instead of starting from scratch, you have one LLM that generates, tweaks, and tests tons of prompt variations for you, way faster than any person ever could.
And this isn't just a single trick, it's a whole toolkit of different methods. You've got things like Automatic Prompt Engineer, which basically brute forces its way to a great prompt by testing tons of options. Then there's Conversational Prompt Engineering, where you actually have a conversation with an AI to build the prompt together. Some tools, like TextGrade, are even more clever. They use feedback written in plain English to steer the AI toward a better solution. It's all about that quick, continuous improvement.
But that leads to an even bigger question, right? Polishing a single instruction is great, but what about those problems that are just too big to be solved in one shot? What if the secret isn't a better prompt, but a fundamentally better process?
And this is where we get to the really big revelation. This led to an incredibly powerful new strategy. Instead of trying to get the AI to take one giant heroic leap, you teach it how to take a series of small, easy steps. And this approach is called least to most prompting.
You have to appreciate the different philosophies at play here. On one side, with meta-prompting, you're sharpening your tool. You're making the prompt better and better. But on the other side, with problem decomposition, you're not just sharpening the tool, you're fundamentally changing the job. You're turning one incredibly hard task into a bunch of simple ones.
The method itself? It's actually super intuitive. It happens in two stages. First, you ask the AI to think like a planner. You say, hey, break this big problem down into a series of smaller, logical steps. Then, you feed it those steps one at a time, and here's the magic, you use the answer from the first step to help it solve the second, and so on.
And this visual really breaks it down for us. Look at stage 1, up at the top. The AI first deconstructs the problem. It figures out the very first thing it needs to know is, how long does each trip take? Simple enough. Then, in stage 2, it answers that question. But look closely. That answer, each trip takes 5 minutes, becomes a piece of information it uses in the very next prompt. The context just keeps building with every step.
All right, so it sounds great on paper, but does it actually work any better? Well, this is where things get pretty wild. The results aren't just a little better, they're absolutely staggering.
Okay, check out this task. It's a symbolic reasoning puzzle. And just watch what happens as the problem gets harder, as the list gets longer. The accuracy for the standard chain of thought method just tanks. It goes from over 80% all the way down to less than 32%. But least to most, it holds up incredibly well, staying at 74%. It's just so much better at generalizing to harder problems.
I mean, the researchers who developed this put it perfectly themselves. This isn't just about getting a better answer on one specific problem. It's about giving the model a whole new framework to tackle stuff that's way harder than anything it saw in its examples.
But if you really want to see the knockout punch, you have to look at this benchmark called SCAN. It tests if an AI can combine concepts in new ways. Chain of thought? Well, it barely gets off the ground, with about 16% accuracy. And least to most? It's practically perfect. The difference is just massive.
Yeah, 99.7%. Let that just sink in for a second. Near perfect accuracy on a benchmark that's known for being incredibly tough. And here's the most mind-blowing part. It did that with only 14 examples in its prompt. To put that in perspective,
Specialized models that are purpose-built for this exact task have to be trained on over 15,000 examples to get a similar score. That is a crazy leap in efficiency.
So what's the big picture here? What does all this actually mean? Because this is way more than just a clever new prompting trick. It really points to a huge shift in how we're going to be working with AI from now on. The huge takeaway is this. Our job is changing. We're moving away from just being prompt operators, people who type in a command and hope for the best. We're becoming more like reasoning strategists. We're the architects who design the entire problem-solving workflow for the AI to follow. We're not just asking for a finished product. We're building the entire assembly line that creates it. And that really leaves us with this pretty wild final thought. As we get better and better at breaking down problems and guiding an AI through these logical steps, are we really just writing instructions anymore? Or are we, in a very real way, starting to design and orchestrate the actual thought processes of these machines? The line between the two is getting blurrier every single day.